Welcome to Manifestation Mechanics. This is the welcome, the part one. You know, for most of my life, I believed that manifestation was thinking the right thoughts. That's what I was told. To keep positive, to visualize success and pretend that you already have it and the universe will respond. And it sounded simple. It sounded powerful. And for a while, I wanted to believe that that's all it took. That the mind was a magic wand and the affirmation could bend reality. But if you've ever tried it, then you already know the truth. The truth that I also eventually faced, and that's, it doesn't always work. I mean, you can repeat, I am abundant 1,000 times. You can picture the house, the bank account, the partner and the lifestyle, and yet something in life, some bill, some argument, some fear, it just cuts through all of that imagination and just drags you straight back into the same old effing reality. And that's the point where most people start to doubt themselves and they say, maybe I didn't believe hard enough. Maybe I am doing it wrong. But what if it wasn't you that was doing it wrong? What if the message itself has been incomplete from the start? And that's the question that began everything for me, because when manifestation fails, people think it's about faith. They think that they just didn't hold on to the feeling for long enough. But what I discovered, and what I've built manifestation mechanics on, is that manifestation doesn't fail because of belief. It fails because of interference. There's a kind of static that forms between what you say and what you truly feel. And that static, it scrambles your signal. The universe or consciousness or the field, whatever name that you prefer, it doesn't respond to words. It responds to coherence. And when your inner state and your outer intention, they move in the same rhythm, reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around that pattern. But when you think one thing and you feel another, then you just send out two opposing commands and creation just pauses, just waiting for you to decide which one is real. And I learned that lesson the hard way. I grew up fascinated by the idea that the mind could shape the world. And I read the books, I listened to speakers, I filled notebooks with affirmations. And for a while it gave me hope. But then life happened. And there were months when money just simply didn't come. When I would tell myself that I was wealthy, but the numbers on the screen, they said otherwise. There were moments when I'd try to act confident while my body was just shaking with fear. And in those moments, I realized something that very few teachers ever talk about. And that's your words, they can lie, but your state of being, your state, never lies. Your state is the language that creation listens to. It's the emotional frequency underneath the sentence. I mean, you can whisper, I'm fine, with a broken heart. And most people, even strangers, will feel the truth beneath your voice. And reality works the same way. And I didn't see it then. Back then, I just thought that I simply wasn't spiritual enough. So I doubled down. I consumed everything that I could find. Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, Florence Scovel Shinn, Abraham Hicks, Joe Dispenza, Wayne Dyer, anyone that promised that thoughts become things. And each of them offered something brilliant. But yet every time I tested their ideas, the same problems returned. The results came inconsistently. Sometimes magical, and then sometimes nothing at all. It was as if manifestation just worked on its own timetable, responding not to effort, because the effort was there, but responding to something deeper that I just, at that time, couldn't yet name. And that question, it haunted me. So I started studying not just the modern voices, but the ancient ones. I turned to Vedanta, the philosophy that shaped so much of India's spiritual heritage, and also to the texts of Krishna consciousness, especially the Bhagavad Gita. And in researching all that, that's where the missing piece appeared. Those writings, they didn't talk about wishful thinking. They talked about understanding consciousness itself, about how the unseen becomes seen. They described creation as a process of a precise unfolding of a vibrational form. What Neville and others had rediscovered was true, but it was only half of the equation. The ancients had already mapped the full mechanism, and they called it by many names: prana, shakti, atman, but the principle was all the same. Your inner alignment shapes the outer expression. And when I realized that, everything changed. Because I saw that manifestation isn't a belief system. It's an operating system. It's not a personal magic. It's simply mechanics. Just the same as gravity. It doesn't care whether you believe it or not. And the laws of consciousness, they don't depend on faith. They depend on alignment. And once you understand those laws, you stop chasing results and you start working with precision. You begin to treat manifestation the way that an engineer treats physics, with respect for the structure, not for superstition. And that's the heart of what I've named manifestation mechanics. It's the study of how consciousness actually works and how you can operate within it deliberately rather than just accidentally, which we do all the time. Remember, we're always manifesting. When I first began seeing this, I realized something else. And that's the reason that manifestation has become a billion-dollar industry. It's because the people are sold hope instead of being sold understanding. They're told that if they just keep believing, if they just keep buying the next technique, the next course, then one day it'll just all click. But it doesn't, because techniques are just surface tools. They rearrange words, not states. They treat symptoms and not structure. And until you change the structure, the surface just keeps rebuilding itself the same way. And that's why most people oscillate. A good month, bad month, a win, and then a crash. Moments of magic followed by silence. It's not punishment. It's feedback. It's the field of consciousness saying, you've changed your words, but not your vibration. And when you understand that, your frustration just dissolves, because you stop thinking that you're doing it wrong, and you start simply seeing that you just haven't aligned the system. How can I explain this? Okay, I want you to picture this for a moment. Now, imagine that you're tuning in a radio. You know, your favorite radio station is there, but you just keep getting static. So you twist the dial slightly left, slightly right, but nothing but static noise. Now, you don't curse the radio station. You don't assume that the signal doesn't exist. You know it's there. You just simply realize that you're not aligned with the frequency yet. And that's manifestation. Your desired reality already exists, but if you are not tuned into it, if you're not tuned to its coherence, then you can't receive it. And the tuning dial isn't thought. It's your state. Your state of being your state is the frequency. And thoughts are just the language that you use to broadcast through it. And when your state stabilizes, your thoughts, they naturally harmonize, and the field responds just like sound through a perfectly tuned instrument. And that's what we'll explore on this channel. And that's how to tune the instrument. And by the time I understood this, I'd spent years trying to manifest from the surface. And for years, the surface just kept crumbling. But once I started living from alignment instead of affirmation, things began to move, not instantly every time, but predictably. There were small changes at first, emotional steadiness, subtle synchronicities, a sense that reality was listening to me instead of ignoring me. And then there were the bigger changes, opportunity, health. That was a massive one from me. I had cancer, no longer have it. Relationships. And eventually understanding that manifestation isn't about commanding reality. It's about cooperating with it. Because reality is alive, it's intelligent, and it mirrors your coherence. When you treat manifestation mechanically, you stop trying to convince the universe. You start communicating with it. And that's the difference. That's the bridge between the ancient Vedanta and modern manifestation teachers and creation. I guess this is where our journey begins, because once you see that manifestation is not as a mystery, but as a mechanism, you can stop chasing new methods and start using the fundamentals. So let's get into what actually runs a system. If you've understood and kept up with me so far, that you already know that manifestation isn't random. It follows laws. And once you see them clearly, you stop hoping and you start operating. Now, there are 4 mechanics at work in every creation. And remember, we're manifesting all of the time. You don't have to believe in them. They're already functioning inside of you. But when you understand them, when you line them up, you become deliberate. So let's start with the first one, the state of being, the engine. Your state is the energetic climate that you live in. Now, most people try to create new outcomes while they're trapped in the same emotional weather within. They say, I want abundance, but they feel scarcity. They say, I want love, but they just expect rejection. They say, I want health, while identifying with illness every morning they wake up. And state is the signal that the field responds to. You can't hide it. You can only align it. Think of state as the hum behind your words, the invisible soundtrack of your life. When the soundtrack changes, the scene changes. So the first work in manifestation isn't thinking new thoughts. It's stabilizing a new frequency, a new emotional frequency. And when you do that, your thoughts, they automatically just rearrange to fit that. And this is what Vedanta hinted at when it said that the outer world is Maya. Not illusion in the sense of fake, but reflection. It means that your reality reflects the state of your own awareness. Change the state, and reflection reorganizes. When you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. Wayne Dyer, he was almost there. Number 2 is the blueprint. It's the second mechanic, imagination. And imagination isn't fantasy. It's design. It's the architect's table where the blueprints of experience are drawn. Every invention, every building, every revolution began as an image in someone's consciousness. Reality just can't build what you haven't pictured. But here's the difference between imagination that works and imagination that wastes energy. Effective imagination is embodied. It's not observed. How can I explain this better? Most people imagining, or when most people imagine, they're watching a movie of themselves succeed. They see the image over there. But true creation, it happens when the image moves in here. When you stop watching it as if it's on a screen and you start living in it. You're consciously living in it. And that's got to be the first point. Neville Goddard called it feeling it real. And Vedanta would call it identification with the self. Modern psychology might call it neural rehearsal. It's different language, it's the same law. When imagination fuses with emotion, it becomes an instruction, a command written into the field itself. Number 3, emotional coherence. It's the current. This is the third mechanic. Emotional coherence. Emotion is the current that powers the system. If imagination is the design, emotion is the electricity that brings it to life. But most people's emotional wiring is short-circuited. They think one thing and they feel another. And they act another. It's like trying to run a circuit with wires just pointing in opposite directions. It's not a circuit. Coherence means that your thought, your feeling, your body, and your body language, they all say the same thing. And when that happens, the current flows. It flows without resistance. And that's what the Bhagavad Gita pointed to when Krishna spoke of acting without attachment. It means that your emotion flows cleanly, not blocked by doubt, fear, or over control. So how do you achieve emotional coherence? By telling the truth to yourself. Not the surface truth, the deeper one. If you feel fear, acknowledge it. If you feel lack, see it without judgment. And only then can you integrate it. You see, suppressed emotion becomes static noise. Integrated emotion becomes power. When coherence forms, the field responds immediately because creation reads emotion as data. It's the universal code language of consciousness. So, number 4 now. Embodiment. It's the output. So this 4th mechanic I call embodiment. It's the expression phase where consciousness moves through action. And this is where so many teachings get confused. They think that action creates manifestation. But action doesn't create. Action confirms. Action is what reality looks like when alignment has already happened inside. When your inner mechanics are in order, action just flows effortlessly. And you find yourself doing the right thing at the right time without strain. And that's alignment in motion. When action feels forced, it means that the earlier mechanics are out of sync. Go back to state. Go back to coherence. Don't push the outer world. Adjust the inner rhythm. Vedanta expresses this through karma yoga. Right action arising from right awareness. It's the difference between acting to get something and acting because you are already something. The first is grasping, and the second is expression. Okay, now putting it together. So the mechanics works like this. State sets the vibration. Imagination gives it the form. Emotion powers it. And embodiment expresses it. You miss one and the process just collapses. You align them and the manifestation becomes predictable. And this is why some people just manifest easily without ever reading a book on it. They happen to live in coherence. Their thoughts, their feelings, and their actions, they match. They might not have a language, a spiritual language for it, but mechanically, they're aligned. While meanwhile, others read every book and they still struggle because they treat manifestation like superstition. They chant affirmations from a sense of fear or lack. That's like whispering, "I'm warm," while standing in the snow. It's not about pretending. It's about regulating the system until pretending becomes unnecessary, until your inner and your outer reality say the same things. Examples for the mind. Let's make this tangible. Imagine 2 people trying to manifest money. The first keeps repeating, "I'm wealthy." But inside, every time that they say it, they feel a little sting of disbelief. That emotion cancels the thought. They're transmitting 2 frequencies. I'm rich and I'm not. The second person sits quietly, stabilizes a state of security, Not wild excitement, just calm sufficiency. And then from that state, they visualize their financial life with ease. They feel gratitude as if it's normal. And they move through the day making grounded, generous choices. Now, guess which one shifts their reality faster? It's not about force. It's about consistency of the signals. Or take relationships. You can script your perfect partner for years, but if your self-concept still vibrates, I'm unworthy, then the field will mirror that unworthiness right back to you. When you stabilize love within yourself, not as an ego, but as an energetic norm, you become magnetic without effort. And that's the system running correctly. Why people miss it. People miss this because they're addicted to trying. Trying feels productive, but it's just resistance in disguise. It says, I don't have it yet, so I must keep doing. That very vibration of not yet just keeps the result in the future. What I've done with manifestation mechanics is I'm teaching you to stop trying and to start tuning. And when you tune, effort dissolves because the energy is already flowing in the right direction. And that's why so many miracles happen when people just finally give up. It's not surrender to loss, it's surrender of resistance. Let's talk about the feedback loop. A reality is not judging you. No. Reality is mirroring you. It's giving you constant feedback about your current state. When something unpleasant appears, it's not punishment, it's diagnostic. It's showing you where the system lost coherence. And instead of reacting with frustration, you start to ask, what is this experience teaching me about my vibration? And this single question can transform your entire life because it moves you from victim to operator. Now you're learning from reality instead of fighting it. And that's how you build mastery, through feedback, not through fantasy. Let's talk about mechanical precision versus mystic hope. And this is the biggest shift of all. When you move from mystical hope to mechanical precision, manifestation becomes predictable, not because you control the universe, but because you finally understand how consciousness behaves. Vedanta taught that consciousness is not in the body. The body is in consciousness. And that's the foundation of manifestation mechanics. It means you're not It means you're not sending signals out there. You're adjusting the field from within. Everything that you experience is a configuration of consciousness responding to itself. When you stabilize your own pattern, the configuration stabilizes around you. And that's why you'll hear me say again and again, stop chasing reality. Just start calibrating consciousness. That calibration is the work. And once you commit to it, you'll never, ever wonder whether manifestation works. You'll see that it's always working according to your alignment. In this next section, we're going to connect all of this back to just where it began. The bridge between ancient understanding and modern life. And we'll talk about how this knowledge was encoded in the oldest philosophies. I say philosophies, but I would argue truth. And why modern teachers rediscovered fragments of it. And how manifestation mechanics reunites them into a single clear system. So we're going to come to, I think, to the conclusion of this video. The end summarization. Now that you understand the mechanic state, imagination, emotion, and embodiment, let's zoom out and look at this where the knowledge really comes from. Because what I'm sharing with you isn't new. It is timeless. It's written across every spiritual and scientific discipline that's ever tried to explain creation. And we've just simply forgotten the structure or followed these great teachers that were missing parts of it. When I studied Vedanta, what struck me most was how precisely it described consciousness. It said that before anything appears in the world, it exists as vibration, as chitta, the field of awareness. From that subtle field arises mind, thought, feeling, action, and then finally the material, the experience that we call reality. So when modern manifestation teachers say that your thoughts create reality, they are half right. But Vedanta goes deeper. It says your consciousness of self creates thoughts. And that consciousness is the root of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, as you think, so you become. But if you read carefully, you'll see he's not talking about surface thinking. He is talking about identification. He's pointing to the truth that what you know yourself to be is what you will experience. And that's what Neville Goddard meant when he said, Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He had rediscovered a fragment of ancient formula. He was teaching identification, but without the wider framework that Vedanta had already mapped out thousands of years earlier. And that's the bridge between manifestation mechanics, uniting those pieces. It translates the metaphysics of ancient India into a language that the modern mind can apply without superstition. It shows you the system, the same one that every prophet, teacher, and mystic has tried to describe in their own ways, through physics, through scripture, through metaphor. And once you see that it's all describing the same process, you begin to relax. You stop chasing the next secret, because there are no secrets. It's just mechanics that you haven't yet mastered. And once you understand this, then something inside of you changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to manifest, and you begin to see yourself as consciousness learning how it all works. And that shift, it removes guilt. It removes shame. It removes that constant question, why hasn't it happened yet? Because now you know the answer. It's not that it hasn't happened. It's that the system is still calibrating. Every state that you enter redefines the signal. Every emotional correction tightens the current. And every moment of awareness is a mechanical adjustment to the instrument that is you. This is how manifestation becomes a discipline and not a daydream. You see, ancient Vedantic teachers, they weren't selling miracles. They were teaching engineering, the engineering of consciousness. They understood that the world you perceive is a feedback mechanism. It's not an accident. Modern science is only just now catching up. Quantum physics hints at it, how the observer influences the observed, how potential collapses into form through observation. The language is different, but the principle is the same. Consciousness precedes creation. And that's what manifestation mechanics means. The mechanics of how consciousness becomes matter. And when you study this deeply, you stop needing belief. You operate from knowledge. Because belief, it can waver. But understanding is stable. And stability is what creation listens to. Okay, so let's bring this home. I'm guessing that for years that you've been told to chase thoughts, to fix your mindset, to keep grinding away at the surface. But the truth is that your mindset doesn't create reality. It's your mind state. No, that does. Mindset is what you think. Mind state is what you are. And every event in your life reflects that state with absolute precision. And this is why often trying harder, it makes things worse, because trying says, I don't have it yet. And the field agrees with you. But when you understand the mechanics, you stop trying, you start tuning, you adjust the frequency, not circumstance. You'll move from willpower to resonance. And when that happens, you become still, not passive, but internally clear. Your actions arise from that clarity, and they have the power of inevitability behind them. That's when you start to feel the system working for you and not against you. Synchronicities appear, not because you force them, but because coherence naturally organizes experience. And when I began living this way, I noticed something unexpected to the constant anxiety to manifest. It just disappeared. The obsession with outcomes just melted into confidence, and not arrogance, just a quiet certainty, and knowing that reality was no longer random. And it wasn't about controlling everything. It was about trusting the structure. The same way that, as I said, we trust gravity. You don't wake up wondering if gravity will work today. You just simply live within that law, within its law. And manifestation works the same way. Once you understand the law, you don't beg it to operate. You cooperate with it. And that cooperation is the mastery. So here's what I want you to realize. You have never failed at manifestation. You've only been taught to use it backwards. You were told to start with thoughts, but thoughts are the final product. They're not the beginning. You were told to fake confidence, but confidence is what emerges when the state aligns. You were told to visualize the goal, but never told to regulate the emotion that powers the visualization. So nothing stuck. And it's not your fault. The teachers before us were rediscovering fragments of a much larger system. And now that system is just here again, and it's in full view. And this is what manifestation mechanics represents. It's the reassembly of truth into a structure anyone can understand. It's not mysticism. It's not religion. It's the physics of consciousness. And when you apply it, you don't need to wait for years for results. You will start to feel shifts immediately, because the moment coherence forms, reality just begins to reorganize. And you'll see it in small ways first. Your timing improves, your conversations align, and solutions just appear. These aren't coincidences. They are confirmation that the signal has cleared. In later videos, I am going to give you some techniques to help. As that signal strengthens, your life will begin to accelerate. Not chaotically, but gracefully. Things that used to take years will start unfolding with ease. Not because the world has changed, but because you're no longer fighting your own field. This is the future of manifestation. Not superstition, not blind faith, but precise understanding. The ancients, they called it knowledge of the self. Modern science might call it mastery of frequency. I call it manifestation mechanics. Because when you know how the system works, you don't need to beg reality to change. You just simply operate coherently. And if there's one truth I want you to remember, it's this: reality doesn't respond to desire. It responds to definition. And you define yourself through your state. And reality mirrors that definition back onto you. That means you never attract what you want. You attract what you are. You know this truth. You feel it. And when you truly grasp this, you realize, once you start this process, you were never separate from the reality that you were chasing. You were simply tuning yourself to remember it. That's what this channel, this teaching, my work is all about. It's to remind you of the system that you've been using and to show you how to finally use it consciously. So let this be your beginning, not the start of another search, but the end of the confusion. The moment that you stop believing and you start knowing. Because once you understand the system, you cannot unsee it. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, feel differently. And the world begins to move with you, not because you forced it, but because you finally learned its language. And that's manifestation mechanics. Understand the system, operate it consciously, and let the mechanics of consciousness reveal what's always been waiting for you. My name is Dejorn Goldsmith. This has been my introduction video to manifestation mechanics. I'm sure you know how to use YouTube by now. If you want to subscribe to see more videos or get YouTube to push this out further, you know to subscribe. If you want to get notifications of my next videos, I'm sure you know how to be notified. I don't need to tell you that. Please feel free to ask any questions, make any comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you.